For anyone looking to become a pastry chef, this class is a must. Over 5 centuries in the making, this dough is a staple for both sweet and savory dishes. Today we are going to learn the right technique to make several international pastry classics using it. Hello, I'm Carlos Salgado, and today we'll be diving into the world of choux pastry. Choux means cabbage in French, and it gets its name because once baked, the dough looks like little cabbages. But this name wasn't used until the 18th century. Before that, it was known as chaud dough. It first made its way to the court of King Henry II of France, thanks to his wife, Queen Catherine de' Medici. There are thousands of pastry choux recipes out there. Some of them use bread flour, while others stick to the traditional recipe that uses only water, which gives the dough a lighter, crisper texture. But today we'll be looking at a recipe that combines water and milk to add more flavor and color. Choux pastry is part of the boiled dough family because the flour expands when cooked in boiling water and fat. Then puffs up in the oven thanks to the eggs. You can make it by hand if you are working with small batches. Normally, you finish in a stand mixer with a paddle attachment. So what desserts can we make with choux pastry? The list is long. Profiteroles, eclairs, and even entremets like the Saint-Honoré cake, Paris Brest, and profiterole cakes. In fact, the same choux pastry technique is also used to make churros and Portuguese sonhos. But eclairs, churros, and entremet each deserve their own tutorial. Today we are focusing on profiteroles and their variations. For the recipe we are about to make, we'll need 150 grams of water, 150 grams of milk, 18 grams of honey, 6 grams of salt, 132 grams of butter cubed, 180 grams of all-purpose flour previously sifted, 250 grams of beaten eggs at room temperature. Heat a saucepan with butter, water, milk, honey and salt. Stir to combine all the ingredients well before boiling. Once it reaches a boil, remove from the heat and add the flour. Mix it well with the liquid until you have a smooth dough, similar to a mashed potatoes. Return the dough to medium heat and cook it. Cook it for about 1 minute until a film forms at the bottom of the pan and you hear the dough frying. Transfer the dough to a mixer bowl and with the paddle attachment, let it cool slightly. After about 2 minutes, start adding the eggs in 4 parts. waiting for each portion to be absorbed before adding the next. You'll end up with a smooth, shiny dough. You'll know it's ready if you can form ribbons with it. Cover it with plastic wrap and let it rest for 1 hour. Now that our chew dough is ready, we can start making classic profiteroles. Preheat the oven to 340 degrees. We'll use a piping tip that's 60 millimeters in diameter. You can bake this on parchment paper or silicone mats. If using parchment paper, you can use the base of the piping tip to draw guidelines on the reverse side of the sheet. This can also be used as a guide under the silicone mat. Alternate the circles to allow air to flow and bake evenly. Once the dough is in the piping bag, make sure there are no air bubbles trapped inside. Hold the piping tip about half a centimeter from the tray. Press down and let the dough expand into a half sphere while you raise the piping bag slightly. Stop and finish with a circular breeze motion. Don't worry about any peaks. You can flatten them with a moistened fork or spoon, or even with damp fingertips. Once the tray is ready, sprinkle powdered sugar and place it in the freezer for about 20 minutes. Take it out of the freezer, sprinkle again with powdered sugar, and bake for about 25 minutes without the fan. During this time, it's crucial not to open the oven door. Always place the tray in the middle of the oven. Now lower the oven to 300 degrees and bake for another 5 to 10 minutes. The profiteroles should be quite dry and have a dark golden color. Remove them from the oven and transfer them quickly to a cooling rack. This is to prevent moisture from forming between the profiterole and the tray. For these profiteroles, I have a classic pastry cream ready. All the creams I'm using today are explained in detail in the 12 creams tutorials. The links can be found in the description. If you cut one open, you'll see the cavity inside the profiterole. To fill it, you can use these special piping tips shaped like large syringes. If you don't have them, you can make a small crosscut and then fill with the cream. Once filled, refrigerate them for about 20 minutes. For the topping, we'll prepare this simple chocolate ganache recipe. 175 grams of dark chocolate, 175 grams of warm heavy cream, and 30 grams of softened butter. Mix all the ingredients well. Simply dip the top of the profiterole and make sure to remove any excess. And here we have classic profiteroles with pastry cream. They are so simple and delicious. Now let's make a variation known as chouquettes. Chouquettes are usually a bit smaller than classic profiteroles and have a layer of pearl sugar, which gives them a crunchy touch. Use an 8 mm piping tip. Sprinkle pearl sugar on top and place the tray in the freezer for about 20 minutes. Then take it out of the freezer and bake immediately at 340 degrees for about 20 to 25 minutes. If they are not golden yet, leave them for 5 more minutes. Let them cool on a rack. These chouquettes are incredibly delicious because they have this sweet crust that gives them that crunchy texture. That's why a light, not too sweet Diplomat cream is perfect. When preparing the Diplomat cream, remember to reduce the sugar in the pastry cream and not to add any to the whipped cream. They are truly addictive. Now let's make perfect profiteroles with crackling. This crunchy topping not only gives them an amazing flavor, but also ensures perfect baking. The aroma is indescribable. Crackling allows the profiterole to rise perfectly. To make the crackling, simply cream together by hand or in a mixer 80 grams of softened butter, 100 grams of brown sugar. Once well creamed, add 100 grams of all-purpose flour. Mix gently, not too much. Once ready, roll it out between two sheets of wax paper to about 2 or 3 millimeters thick and freeze it for 1 hour. Preheat the oven to 500 degrees. For these profiteroles, I'm using a 12 mm piping tip and a 20 mm one. For the profiteroles pipe with the 12 mm tip, I'll use a 4 cm cutter to mark the crackling circles. For those pipe with the 20 mm tip, I'll use a 7.5 cm cutter. Pipe some large profiteroles and some medium ones. Don't worry about the peaks or irregularities. Then remove the frozen crackling circles and place them on top, applying slight pressure. Once all the profiteroles are topped, place the trays in the preheated oven at 500 degrees. Place them on the middle rack. Once they are inside, turn off the oven and wait for about 20 minutes for the medium ones and 30 minutes for the large ones. Turn the oven back on, but this time to 30-40 degrees and bake for another 10 minutes. The large ones will need 10 more minutes. Once ready, let them cool on a rack. You can fill these profiteroles with chocolate diplomat cream. For these chocolate-filled profiteroles, dust them with a bit of cocoa powder. If you want to use the same diplomat cream we use for the chouquettes, sprinkle them with powdered sugar instead. You can also cut the top, add some pastry cream to the base, then pipe a spiral of chantilly cream on top. Trim the top of the profiterole a little, dust it with powdered sugar, and place it back like a little hat. or fill from the top instead of the base and cover with a touch of cream. The possibilities are endless. And here we have the classic religious. They are very easy to make. They got their name because they resemble nuns. And we can't forget the classic profiterole with ice cream and hot chocolate sauce. This is the perfect way to end a great dinner with guests at home. We just need to get some good vanilla ice cream from the store and prepare this delicious chocolate sauce. 50 grams of cocoa powder, 50 grams of dark chocolate, 150 grams of powdered sugar, 250 grams of water, 1 tablespoon of espresso. Heat the water and dissolve the cocoa powder well. Then add the chocolate. Finally, add the sugar and coffee. Bring to a boil. You can use it immediately or refrigerate and reheat it later. And here we have a classic, tempting profiterole with vanilla ice cream and hot chocolate sauce.
I got a tendency to find the pain in you, spin it around and make you work the whole way through. I don't know why, but I guess this is what I do. I'm the mirror to you. Find the pain in you, spin it around and make you work the whole way through.
What do you think of this little introduction to choux pastry? I hope you'll try making some profiteroles or any of these variations. If you like this video, please give a like. And if you like my content, please subscribe for more pastry lessons. Thanks for joining me and see you soon.